2,000 years ago, there was a word that Roman generals feared, not the name of a kingdom, not the name of an army, the name of a woman. Her title was Candace, and she ruled an empire that Rome itself could not conquer. Her name was Amanirenas, and when Rome sent its legions to conquer her kingdom, she defeated them. This is the story of the Candace Queen, and it's a story about what women's power looked like in the ancient world. I'm Kay, and this is Labari Studio, where we tell you about the women of African history whose power was so threatening that the world had to erase them. The Candace Queens ruled Nubia, the kingdom that sat south of Egypt, controlling the Nile, controlling trade, controlling power. They weren't just queens who married kings. They were sovereigns. They commanded armies. They negotiated with Rome as equals. They were, by any measure, among the most powerful women in the ancient world. And yet, if you took a history class, you probably never heard their names. First, let's explain what a Candace was. Candace was a title. It meant Queen Mother, or Queen in the Nubian language. But it wasn't just a ceremonial title. A Candace was a ruler, a sovereign with real power. In Nubian culture, women could inherit the throne, women could command armies, women could control the economy. This wasn't unusual. It was built into their system of governance. The Candace was often the most powerful person in the kingdom, more powerful than the king, more powerful than generals, more powerful than priests. She controlled the royal treasury. She controlled the military. She controlled trade. She controlled the succession, often choosing which son would be the next king. This was a system where women didn't need to manipulate men to gain power. They had power, inherently, structurally. It was theirs. The most famous Candace was named Amanirenas. She ruled Nubia around 40 BCE, the same era as Cleopatra in Egypt and Augustus in Rome. When Amanirenas came to power, Nubia was under pressure. Rome was expanding. Augustus was consolidating power, and he wanted to conquer Nubia. Augustus sent his general Petronius with a massive army to invade Nubia and make it a Roman province. Amanirenas did not negotiate. She did not surrender. She mobilized her own army, and she defeated Rome. Petronius retreated. Rome's legions were forced back. Amanirenas had done what most kingdoms couldn't do. She had stopped Roman expansion. This wasn't a small victory. This was one of the few times Rome faced a serious military defeat in its entire history of expansion, and it was led by a woman. The Candace Queens controlled Nubian power in multiple ways. First, economic power. Nubia controlled the gold trade, the elephant ivory trade, the incense trade. Nubian merchants traded with Egypt, with Rome, with the Middle East, with India. The Candace controlled this wealth. She controlled what was traded, she controlled prices, she controlled access. Second, military power. The Candace commanded a professional army. Nubian archers were famous throughout the ancient world for their skill. When a Candace decided to go to war, she could mobilize thousands of soldiers. She could strategize. She could command. She was a military leader, not just a figurehead. Third, spiritual power. The Candace was seen as a divine figure. She was the connection between the gods and the people. When she spoke, people listened. When she declared something sacred, it was sacred. When she demanded loyalty, she had it. Fourth, political power. The Candace controlled succession. She chose which king would rule. She could remove kings if they failed. In Nubia, the king served at the pleasure of the Candace, not the other way around. This was a system of female power that had no equivalent in Rome, in Greece, or in Egypt. Here's the thing about the Candace Queens. The historical record is clear. Greek historians wrote about them. Roman historians documented their military victories. Ancient inscriptions still exist in Nubia with the names and achievements of Candace Queens carved in stone. The evidence is overwhelming. The Candace Queens were real. They were powerful, they shaped history. But for 2,000 years, this history was largely ignored. Western historians focused on Egypt, on Rome, on Greece. They ignored Nubia. And when they did mention Nubia, they often attributed Nubian achievements to Egypt. Nubia became a footnote. The Candace Queens became invisible. So why was this power erased? Why is it that most people have never heard of the Candace Queens? Part of it is simple: proximity. Western historians cared about the Mediterranean. They cared about Europe. They cared about civilizations that were close to them. Nubia was in Africa, further away, less relevant to European concerns. But there's another reason that's more important. The Candace Queens represented something that made Western society profoundly uncomfortable. Women wielding real, unquestionable power. In medieval Europe, women could not own property in many places. They could not vote. They could not inherit the throne in most kingdoms. They certainly could not command armies. The idea of a woman as the supreme military and political authority in an empire, that was incomprehensible. That was threatening. So when Western historians looked at the Candace Queens, they couldn't quite believe what they were seeing. They minimized it. They explained it away. Surely the king was really in charge. Surely the Candace was just a figurehead. Surely men were making the decisions. Because in European society, that's how power worked. Men held it. Women supported them. The idea that a woman could actually command an empire, that was too dangerous an idea. Too much of a threat to the way Western society was organized. What was the cost of erasing the Candace Queens? It was the loss of a model, a historical precedent, proof that women could rule, that women could command armies, that women could be the supreme authority in an empire. For 2,000 years, women grew up without knowing that the Candace Queens had existed, without knowing that African women had wielded this kind of power. If you knew about the Candace Queens, you knew that women's power wasn't a modern invention. It wasn't something we had to argue for. It was something that African women had already achieved thousands of years ago. So who were the Candace Queens really? They were women who inherited power and wielded it completely. They were military strategists who defeated Rome. They were economic leaders who controlled trade routes and built wealth. They were spiritual authorities who connected their people to the divine. They were political operators who controlled succession and shaped the future of their kingdom. They were, by every measure, among the most powerful women who have ever lived. And they did this not because they were exceptional women who broke through barriers. They did this because their system allowed it, because their culture valued it, because their society was built to enable women's power. That's the radical thing about the Candace Queens. They weren't fighting for power. They had it. They weren't proving they could do what men did. They were doing what their position required. Why does this matter now? Because women are still fighting for recognition, still fighting for equal power, still fighting to be seen as leaders. And when you know about the Candace Queens, you know something that changes everything. This isn't new. This isn't modern. This is ancient. This is African. This is precedent. Women have wielded complete power before. Women have commanded armies. Women have built empires. Women have shaped history. The Candace Queens prove that women's leadership isn't a modern experiment. It's a return to something ancient. It's a remembering of what was possible. And that changes how you see yourself. That changes what you believe is possible. Reclaiming the Candace Queens means something specific. It means reading the ancient texts that already document their power. It means believing what those texts say. It means accepting that women could wield this kind of authority. It means teaching young people, especially young women, especially young African women, that their ancestors wielded real, substantial power. It means understanding that power doesn't have to look like European power, that leadership doesn't have to follow European models. It means looking at Nubian culture and seeing something we can learn from, a system where women's power wasn't exceptional, it was structural. And it means recognizing that the erasure of the Candace Queens wasn't accidental. It was a choice to make European patriarchy seem inevitable, to make women's limited power seem natural. But when you know the Candace Queens, you know the truth. Women's power is ancient, women's leadership is proven, and women's authority is possible. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please subscribe. New episodes every week. Stories about African women and men whose power shaped history. In our next episode, we discuss Asantewaa, the queen who led war against the British Empire, and we find out how she helped cement the legacy of the Ashanti people.